Hey y'all, I'm in the kitchen today and I harvested a bunch of cucumbers this morning, so I'm going to be making pickles. Now I'm not a fan of sweet pickles, although I will make them for other people if they request them. But today I'm going to be making pickles for Tommy and I, and we prefer pickles on a slightly spicier side. Now the thing about pickle recipes is you can adjust the spices however you want. You want to keep the vinegar water mixture pretty much the same as your recipes call for, but as far as the spices go, you can put whatever spices in there you want. You can even add some sugar if you want a sweet pickle, but like I said, I'm making dill pickles today. After I picked the cucumbers this morning, I put them in a bowl with some ice water, and they have been in the fridge since I left for work several hours ago. So we're going to get those out. We're going to wash them real good, and then we're going to get started on making pickles. So here are my cucumbers. They're ice cold. I'm going to be washing them. I'm going to leave some of them in the ice water until I get these cut up. So I'm going to leave these in here and I'm going to get these washed. These are some of the various spices that you can use. I have pickling spice, celery salt, turmeric, dill weed, crushed red pepper, minced garlic, fresh garlic, onion, some bay leaves, and some peppercorns. You can use any of these in your pickles. And of course you need vinegar and water. I've already prepared some jars. I sterilize these in boiling hot water, as well as the lids and rings. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to get my brine started before I start chopping up my cucumbers. So I'm going to do 4 cups of vinegar. Put that into my pot. And I'm going to add 4 cups of water without making a mess usually. And then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of kosher salt. You can use pickling salt if you want. You can, in fact, use regular salt. But if you use iodized salt, it's going to make your pickles cloudy. Just so you know, you want non-iodized salt. So 1/2 cup of salt to my brine. I'm going to get that going on the burner because we want this brine to come to a boil. So I'm going to put that on the back burner there and get that going. In the meantime, we're going to start on our pickles. So the first batch that I'm going to do, I'm going to be making sliced pickles like for hamburgers. So you're going to cut off both ends and discard of that and discard that, and then you're going to slice them. You want to get them a little thicker, so they're, but then again, some people like them thin. And as I get my cucumbers sliced, I like to go ahead and stick them in the jars that I have prepared. Now I'm going to be adding bay leaves, and I should have added bay leaves to my jar first, but I forgot. So I'm going to put 2 in the bigger jars and 1 in the smaller jars. And apparently dropped some on the floor. Bay leaves are supposed to keep your pickles crisper. I don't know if it's the bay leaves that make my pickles crisper or not. Crispier? Crispier? Anyway, I don't know if that's what's working or not, but it works for me. going to do the same thing with the next cucumber because my jar is not full yet. You want to leave a 1/2 inch headspace on these. Once that jar is full, you move on to the next jar. Helps if your cucumbers aren't that big, which these weren't really all that big. Going to continue with my pickles. Nope. Just going to continue until I have all 3 of these jars filled. The thing is, you never can really tell how many jars you're going to be able to fill. That's why I don't chop up all my cucumbers at one time, because I might need to prepare some more jars. Brine is not boiling yet, but hopefully it will get there very soon because I've almost got these jars full. Those cucumbers down in there. Once the brine hits these, they shrink. So you might actually be able to put a few more in there. Alright, while I'm waiting on the brine, I'm going to start putting in my spices in these jars. I never really measure, but for y'all's sake I'm going to. Let's put a 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic in this big jar, and a 1/4 teaspoon in these smaller jars. Or you can put the fresh garlic in there if you want, but I kind of like the minced garlic in mine. Okay. Now I'm not going to measure peppercorns, but I'm just going to put some peppercorns in there in each jar. You can put the spices in the jar first before the pickles if you want. Just didn't do it this time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I do not. Going to put some dill weed in there. Again, I don't normally measure, but I'm going to do it for y'all. Let's see. Again, let's put 1/2 teaspoon of dill weed in the big one, and a 1/4 teaspoon in the smaller ones. Gonna put some crushed red pepper in each jar. Like I said, Tommy and I like them spicier. I'm going to cut up an onion. still waiting on the brine to boil. I'm going to put some pieces of onion in my jars. Doesn't really matter how you do this. If you want your pieces smaller, make them smaller. Just kind of like them bigger. We'll cut these in half for the smaller jars. Just stick it down in there. Now I'm going to set these jars aside. They're ready for their brine, but the brine is not ready yet, so I'm just going to set these aside for a minute. And now I'm going to get my pickle spears ready. So let's go ahead and put some onion down in there first. Just going to use the rest of this. Put a bay leaf in each one. Put half teaspoon of minced garlic in each one. You can use fresh dill. My stores just don't have it right now. We have supply shortages, so you make do with what you can find. Some crushed pepper. Some peppercorns. Remember, you can change those spices to whatever you want. You can leave the red pepper out. You can leave the peppercorns out. You can leave the garlic out. That's up to you. It's just going to kind of alter the taste to your preferences. Alright, before I start cutting those into spears, the brine is ready. So we're going to go ahead and get these jars filled and get them into the canner. Or if you're going to open kettle them, then you won't worry about putting them in the water bath. It's up to you. But regardless, we need to get the brine in here. This will also tell me if I need to make more brine. Pour some in until you get to a 1/2 inch headspace. There we go. Just keep filling up your jars. In case you don't know what open kettle means, that means you just fill these jars like this, put the lid on real quick. Some people flip them upside down, some people do not. But the point is that to keep your pickles crisp, whatever, they don't water bath them. They let them seal from the heat from the hot brine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with that. Alright, now we need to get any air bubbles out. If you see any, don't see any. Nope, no air bubbles. Alright, now you're going to wipe your rims. Make sure you get those good and clean. It will not seal if you do not get them clean. You can use vinegar, you can use water. It's up to you. By the way, it's super hot here in Texas, so if you hear something in the background, I have the air conditioner on. Well, that's the brine boiling, but I have the air conditioner on and it's still in the 80s in my house, even though the air conditioner is only a year old. It's just super hot outside, so I also have some fans going. Okay. So my rims are clean. Now I'm going to put my lids on. If you're going to water bath them, now you put them in the water bath. Water bath them for 10 to 15 minutes. Some people that are going to open kettle will just leave them like this, or they might turn them upside down like this and wait for them to seal. Some people put a towel over them. There's all different methods. I'm just going to go ahead and water bath these. They should be okay. There's the bay leaf. You can see all the spices in there. Alright, now back to the spears. I'm just going to take the ends off of the pickles and I'm going to cut them in spears the size that I want them to be. Let's see. It's about a good size there. So that cucumber just got quartered and I'm going to stick them in my jars. Just straight up and down. I like to turn my jar sideways so I can get as many in there as possible. I did start my brine back, put my brine back on the stove again so it would not be cold while I was working on those other jars. Doing small batches like this at a time makes it a lot easier on me. I know some people like to do 50 jars of pickles at one time, but I still have to cook dinner at 6:30 at night. So I would prefer to do small batches like this. If you're a stay-at-home mom or you're doing this on the weekend, you may have time to do more. This is what works best for me, is just doing it in small batches as my cucumbers are ready. Now, since the jar is not, since I have more head space, more room here, I'm going to cut some of these shorter and have some shorter pickles in here so that we're sure to get the jar full. Nah. As many as you can get. Alright, I think that one's stuffed enough. When you're cutting your cucumbers, you don't want any blemishes on them, so you would want to cut anything off that was any kind of bruise or anything, bug damage, whatever. Making pickles is probably the easiest canning thing you can ever do. Problem is, people can't get the recipe right for how spicy or how sour they want them. They have it in their mind that they want a certain taste based on usually a pickle they've had from grandma or from the store, and they want to imitate that, and they have a hard time finding that specific recipe, and you're going to have to learn to adjust recipes to your taste. So like I said, you start with the vinegar and water ratios and adjust your spices as you want. Everyone's taste buds are different. So like I was saying, I cut them shorter for the top part. There we go. I only had one cucumber left from the ones I harvested, and we will have that one for dinner. If you run out of brine while you're making your pickles, because you didn't know quite how many jars you were going to get, then just make some more. So it's a 50-50 ratio. So for 1 cup of water, 1 cup of vinegar, you know, it's pretty simple. So you could half this recipe. It was 4 cups of water, 4 cups of vinegar, and ½ cup of salt. You would half that and do ½ cup of 2 cups of water, 2 cups of vinegar, and ¼ cup of salt. That would be half this recipe. But it looks like I'm gonna have just enough. Which does not happen often. I'm going to throw some of the mixed pickling spice into one of these jars just for the heck of it. I'm going to wipe the rims. Add a little bit more to this one. I'm going to put my lids and my rings on. There you go. Now you're going to want to water bath these 10 to 15 minutes or do your open kettle, turn them upside down. I don't care what you do. No judging here, but I'm going to go ahead and throw these in my canner for 10 to 15 minutes. The water was up over the top, believe it or not. We're going to set these on a towel and let them cool off. And that's how you make pickles. So that's how you make pickles. Thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.